Kids draw the truth long before adults admit it. I found the picture on a Thursday night while clearing space on the kitchen counter for Noah's math workbook. Crayons scattered beside a half-finished spelling sheet, glue stick without a cap, tiny fingerprints pressed into dried marker stains. Typical 9-year-old chaos. Then I saw the drawing folded beneath his backpack. 3 stick figures stood in front of our house. One was me. One was Claire. The third man wore a blue tie and stood beside my wife holding her hand. Me? Noah drew me outside the house near the curb, smaller than the others. Off to the side, like a visitor waiting for permission to come in. At the bottom corner, Noah had written one sentence in shaky pencil. Dad looks sad here. Something tightened in my chest. I picked the paper up slowly, studying every line harder than I'd studied engineering blueprints during my HVAC certification years earlier. Kids reveal fear through details. Placement, distance, size. My son had drawn Claire smiling bigger beside another man than she ever smiled beside me. That image stayed in my head through dinner, through dishes, through Claire scrolling her phone while pretending to listen to Noah explain fractions, through bedtime. Looking back now, that drawing marked the exact second my marriage stopped feeling damaged and started feeling infected. Around 11:20 p.m., I stepped into Noah's room to return the picture. His lamp still glowed faint yellow beside the bed. He sat awake, hugging his blanket tight against his chest, eyes locked on the hallway behind me like he expected somebody else to enter. "You okay, buddy?" I asked. He nodded too fast. Children lie with speed. Adults lie with polish. He reached for the drawing immediately when he saw it in my hand. Panic flashed across his face for half a second before he buried it under the blanket. "Just school stuff," he muttered. His voice carried strain I'd heard before in grown men sitting across from HR during layoffs. Fear changes tone. I sat at the edge of the bed and noticed another detail. Noah's trash can overflowed with ripped notebook paper. I picked up one piece from the floor. Same blue tie. Same. Strange man. Over and over. Different drawings. Same face. Same smile beside Claire. My pulse slowed instead of rising. Years managing large commercial HVAC contracts taught me one thing. Panic destroys observation. Calm exposes patterns. "Who's the guy in the tie?" I asked carefully. Noah stared at the blanket. Silence stretched between us. Then his shoulders curled inward like he expected punishment. "Mom said I shouldn't talk about him." The room felt smaller after that. I kept my voice level. "Why?" Noah swallowed hard. "Because he'll get angry." That answer landed harder than any confession Claire could have made herself. Children fear monsters. My son feared a real man. I studied his face closely, then noticed bruised half-moons along his fingernails where he'd been chewing them raw. Anxiety. Sustained. Repetitive. Recent. My eyes drifted toward his desk again. Another paper sat hidden beneath a chapter book. This drawing looked different. Darker. Claire stood beside the same man near a car. Noah drew himself behind a tree, watching. Underneath it, scribbled so hard the pencil nearly tore through the page, were 6 words that changed everything. He saw me at the parking lot. I waited until Saturday morning before touching Claire's laptop. Timing matters when somebody starts hiding pieces of their life. People build routines around secrets. Break the rhythm too early and they adapt. I spent Friday watching patterns instead. Claire checked her phone every 11 to 14 minutes. She angled the screen away whenever Noah entered the room. Twice, I caught her studying him with the same nervous expression accountants were before audits. That told me something useful. She feared exposure more than guilt. Around 8:10 Saturday morning, Claire left for Pilates carrying her white leather tote and corporate smile. The second her SUV cleared the subdivision entrance, I moved. Her laptop sat charging on the dining room sideboard beside unopened mail and a Nordstrom receipt folded face down. I opened the machine and tested the password field. First attempt failed. Second failed. Third opened instantly. Brandon Cole, 88. My jaw locked harder than I expected. She used his name as a password inside the same house where our son chewed his fingernails bloody from stress. I started with messages. No emotions. Just data collection. Dates. Locations. Payment confirmations. Claire kept the affair organized like project management software. Hotel reservations every other Thursday. Private parking garage invoices downtown. A shared folder labeled BC client files held restaurant screenshots and apartment access codes. Then I found the transfer history. That changed the temperature in my body completely. Claire had opened a separate checking account 4 months earlier. Weekly transfers moved out in small amounts under $600 each. Smart enough to avoid triggering obvious banking alerts. Dumb enough to leave a trail. Total balance set near $38,000. Brandon received several Zelle payments directly from that account. Rent support, concert tickets, luxury whiskey purchases. My wife funded another man, while Noah slept 20 feet down the hallway. I exported everything onto an encrypted drive from my office. File names, metadata, timestamps. Years earlier, during a contract dispute with a commercial supplier, one attorney taught me a lesson I never forgot. Emotion fades in courtrooms. Documentation survives. By noon, I had transaction histories, hotel confirmations, deleted image recovery files, and enough evidence to sink any custody argument Claire might try later. Then the paranoia started revealing itself. Brandon messaged Claire constantly about Noah. Kid said anything? He's still quiet? Watch his iPad. My pulse slowed into something colder than anger. They monitored my son like a liability. One message carried a screenshot from Noah's school pickup line taken through Brandon's windshield. Another read, "He looked scared today." Good. Fear keeps people loyal. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Men like Brandon always mistake fear for control. That mistake destroys them eventually. Around 1:40 p.m., Noah wandered into my office holding a bowl of cereal against his chest. His eyes drifted toward the laptop screen and widened instantly. He froze so fast the spoon rattled against porcelain. "Dad," he whispered carefully, "if Mom gets mad, are we still staying here?" That question hit harder than every hotel receipt combined. Children only ask about losing their home after somebody plants the idea inside them. I closed the laptop slowly and told him to grab his sneakers because we were getting burgers. Relief flashed across his face so hard it almost broke me. On the drive, Noah stayed quiet until we reached the parking lot outside the diner near Walnut Hill. Then he finally spoke without looking at me. "The man from the drawings," he said softly, fingers tightening around the seatbelt. "He came inside the house while you were in Austin last month." Noah kept staring at the diner menu like he expected the words to rearrange themselves into safety. I let the silence breathe for a minute because scared kids speak in layers. Push too hard, and they retreat back behind survival instincts. The waitress dropped our burgers onto the table, and Noah flinched at the sound of the plates touching the wood. That reaction told me more than therapy books ever could. Fear had settled deep inside him. "When did he come over?" I asked carefully after Noah took 2 nervous bites of fries. He rubbed his palms against his jeans before answering. "The weekend you fixed the Austin hospital system." I remembered that job instantly. 3 overnight shifts repairing a failed commercial cooling unit inside a pediatric wing. Claire sent smiling selfies the entire trip. Family movie night. Pancakes with Noah. Backyard pictures beside the grill. Looking back, every photo feels staged now. Did your mom know he was there? Noah gave me a look that nearly cracked my chest open. Kids hate insulting their parents even after betrayal. "She opened the garage for him," he whispered. "She told me to stay upstairs." My jaw tightened slowly. Calm matters during moments like that. Children study your face when their world starts collapsing. Panic from a father teaches them danger wins. Control teaches them survival. "So why did he threaten you?" Noah stopped chewing completely. His eyes drifted toward the window beside our booth before lowering again. "Because I saw them." The sentence landed flat and heavy between us. I kept my voice steady. "Saw what?" He swallowed hard. "Mom kissing him in the kitchen." He said it quietly, like each word carried shame instead of pain. That part mattered most. Claire had already transferred guilt onto our son. Children absorb emotional fallout like smoke and drywall. You stop smelling it after a while, but the damage spreads through everything. Noah reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a folded trading card. He slid it across the table with shaking fingers. "He gave me this after." I flipped it over. On the back, Brandon had written his phone number beside one sentence in black marker. "Real men protect secrets." Something cold moved through me right then. Brandon saw himself as the dominant male in somebody else's household. Men like that crave power displays. They mistake intimidation for masculinity. They target whoever looks smallest in the room. My appetite vanished completely. "What exactly did he say to you?" Noah stared at the ketchup bottle for several seconds before answering. He grabbed my shoulder near the stairs, and told me families break apart when little boys repeat grown-up business. His voice trembled harder now. Then Mom said I would ruin everything if I made you angry. There it was. The real fracture line. Claire protected the affair first. She protected Noah second. I leaned back slowly and started reorganizing the entire situation inside my head. This stopped being marriage damage. This became custody strategy. Emotional manipulation involving a minor changes courtrooms fast. Family judges forgive affairs every day. Threatening a child creates a different category entirely. I pulled out my phone under the table and opened a secure notes folder I usually used for commercial bid documentation. Dates, statements, behavioral shifts, anxiety markers. Every detail mattered now. Noah noticed the screen immediately. "Are you mad at me?" he asked softly. That question almost destroyed me more than the affair itself. "Buddy," I said carefully, "you protected yourself." That was smart. His shoulders loosened slightly for the first time all day. Then he delivered the sentence that shifted the balance of power completely. "Dad," he whispered, eyes locked on mine now. "I recorded them once because I thought you would need proof." Noah reached into his backpack slowly like he was handling evidence from a crime scene instead of a fourth-grade math folder. He pulled out an old blue iPod Touch wrapped inside a pair of gym socks and slid it across the diner table toward me. "I used Mom's passcode after she fell asleep," he whispered. "I thought maybe you would need help someday." I stared at my son for a second longer than I should have. 9 years old. Most kids his age hide candy wrappers and unfinished homework. Mine had started collecting evidence against his own mother. That realization settled into my chest with terrifying weight. I took the device carefully and pressed play on the only audio file saved in the folder. Claire's voice came through first. Relaxed, laughing softly. Then Brandon answered. Confident, arrogant. The recording lasted only 43 seconds, but 43 seconds can dismantle an entire life when people grow careless. "He keeps watching me," Brandon muttered. "Kid gives me weird vibes." Claire sighed heavily. "Noah worships Ethan. He notices everything." Then came the line that changed how I viewed my wife permanently. "Scare him a little if you have to," Claire said casually. "Fear keeps children quiet." I stopped the audio halfway through because my hands started locking around the phone hard enough to hurt. Some betrayals damage marriages. Others expose character rot that already existed long before the affair. I looked up at Noah and forced calm back into my voice. "You did the right thing." He nodded slowly, but his eyes still searched my face for danger. Children learn emotional weather faster than adults. New existed. The third copy went directly to my attorney friend Marcus Bell through secure transfer. Smart men prepare before confrontation. Around 6:30 that evening, Claire returned carrying protein shakes and shopping bags from Target. She kissed Noah on the head and asked about burgers with the same warm voice from old Christmas videos. Watching her perform motherhood after hearing that recording created a strange sensation inside me. Like studying a counterfeit bill so detailed, it almost deserved admiration. Noah stiffened beside her immediately. Claire noticed it too. I saw panic flash behind her smile for half a heartbeat. "Everything okay?" she asked carefully. "Long day," I answered before Noah could speak. Then I watched her closely during dinner. Once you recognize deception patterns, you start seeing them everywhere. Claire checked Noah constantly instead of me. Monitoring, assessing, damage control. Brandon texted her twice during dinner under the table. I already knew because I had synced her smartwatch notifications earlier through the laptop account. First message, "Kid acting weird?" Second message arrived 12 minutes later. "Make sure he understands what happens if families break apart." I stared at that sentence through mirrored reflection off the dining room window while Claire kept eating salad across from our son like she still belonged in the role of protector. That was the exact moment my strategy changed completely. Divorce stopped being the finish line. Full custody became the mission. Around 11:15 that night, after Claire went upstairs, I opened the county property database and searched Brandon Cole for the first time. 30 seconds later, a new detail shifted the entire board. Brandon already had an active restraining order filed against him by another woman 2 years earlier. The restraining order came from Collin County Family Court, filed 26 months earlier by a woman named Melissa Garner. Same age range as Claire. Same polished corporate headshots across social media. Same pattern too. The filing described coercive intimidation involving a minor child during a domestic dispute. I read that sentence 3 times. Men repeat. Behavior long before consequences catch them. Brandon already built a history around fear and control. Claire either ignored the warning signs or saw them clearly and chose excitement anyway. Both options poisoned my opinion of her equally. I spent the next 3 days building timelines instead of arguments. Arguments feed emotion. Timelines destroy lies. Every lunch break at work, I sat inside my truck outside mechanical supply warehouses cross-referencing transactions against Claire's calendar entries. Monday lunches matched steakhouse charges near Brandon's condo. Thursday marketing meetings lined up with hotel parking receipts. One Saturday yoga retreat turned into a 72-mile trip logged through her Lexus navigation history. Technology betrays people faster than guilt ever will. Around Tuesday afternoon, Marcus called after reviewing the evidence package I sent him. His voice carried the same sharp tone he used during commercial litigation meetings. "Ethan, this case shifted hard," he said. "Fair evidence matters emotionally. Child intimidation changes custody calculations." I leaned against a steel shelving rack inside the equipment room at work while technicians moved compressors behind me. "How hard?" I asked. Marcus paused for half a second. "Judges care about emotional stability. Your son already shows anxiety responses. Nail biting. Sleep changes. Fear language. Keep documenting every behavioral shift." So I did exactly that. Noah started sleeping with his bedroom light on again. Twice, I found him checking the front windows before school like he expected Brandon to appear in the driveway. He stopped wearing headphones during video games because he wanted awareness of movement around the house. Hypervigilance in children rarely develops without pressure. Every detail went into the file. Dates, statements, emotional reactions. I even photographed the raw skin around his fingernails with timestamps attached. Claire noticed the shift too. Wednesday night, she cornered Noah near the laundry room while I reviewed project bids in my office. Her voice stayed soft, careful, strategic. "Sweetheart, you know grown-up relationships get complicated." Sometimes. Noah froze instantly. I saw it from the hallway mirror reflection before either of them noticed me watching. "You still love mommy, right?" she asked next. There it was. Emotional positioning. Claire already sensed control slipping. She started managing narrative before exposure arrived. Smart manipulators prepare sympathy routes early. Noah glanced toward my office before answering. That tiny movement changed Claire's face for one dangerous second. Fear. Real fear. She realized the center of loyalty inside the house had shifted away from her. Later that night, after Noah fell asleep, Claire climbed into bed beside me wearing the lavender lotion she used during our first years of marriage. "Familiarity is strategy. You seem distant lately," she whispered carefully. I kept scrolling through HVAC permit revisions on my tablet. Busy quarter. She studied me longer than usual after that. Suspicion changes people physically. Her breathing slowed. Eyes narrowed slightly. Fingers tightened around the blanket. Claire sensed movement under the surface, but lacked enough information to identify direction. That uncertainty started eating at her. By Thursday morning, she changed her phone passcode, disabled smartwatch syncing, and deleted entire text chains before leaving for work. Too late. I already archived everything. Panic had officially entered their side of the board now. Then Marcus sent me another message that afternoon containing one sentence that changed the entire strategy again. Melissa Garner agreed to speak with me personally about Brandon Cole. Melissa Garner chose a coffee shop 20 minutes outside downtown Dallas instead of Marcus's office. Smart move. People talk more honestly around strangers than lawyers. She arrived exactly on time, carrying a leather binder thick enough to hold years of damage. Early 40s. Controlled posture. Calm eyes. The kind of woman who already survived something ugly and refused to let it define her publicly. She sat across from me and skipped small talk entirely. "Your son mentioned Brandon threatened him," she said quietly. "That means he escalated again." Again. That word mattered. Melissa opened the binder and slid several printed screenshots across the table. Text messages, emails, family court filings. Same pattern everywhere. Brandon inserted himself into relationships through charm first, intimidation second. He studies weaknesses, she explained. Then he builds pressure around them. Her ex-husband's daughter appeared repeatedly throughout the documents. Brandon mocked the girl's anxiety during custody exchanges, pressured her into silence after overhearing arguments, sent manipulative gifts afterward to confuse emotional boundaries. Reading through it felt like watching my own house through a distorted mirror. Why did the restraining order expire? I asked. Melissa leaned back slowly. Because people like Brandon understand presentation. He never screams in public, never leaves visible damage. He turns fear into suggestion instead of force. That sentence stuck with me hard. Brandon weaponized implication. Same tactic he used on Noah. Same reason Claire probably minimized everything inside her own head. Predators rarely introduce themselves honestly. They arrive disguised as confidence. Melissa tapped one printed email with painted fingernails. Read this part. I scanned the highlighted paragraph. Brandon wrote, "Children stay loyal when they fear consequences more than betrayal." My stomach tightened instantly. Same language. Same psychology. Same twisted philosophy aimed directly at kids. Melissa watched my expression carefully before speaking again. "Your wife thinks she controls the situation," she said. "She does not understand who she invited into your family." Looking back now, that conversation shifted something important inside me. Until then, I still viewed Claire partly as somebody trapped inside bad decisions. Melissa erased that illusion fast. Claire ignored warning signs because Brandon made her feel powerful, exciting, desired. Meanwhile, Noah absorbed the fallout like emotional shrapnel. What finally exposed him? I asked. Melissa gave a humorless smile. A recording. The word landed sharply between us. My ex-husband's daughter captured Brandon threatening her during a custody exchange. My pulse slowed instantly. Recordings change legal strategy from emotional testimony into factual evidence. Melissa slid another document toward me. A transcript. Brandon's exact words filled the page. Calm voice. Controlled tone. Psychological pressure wrapped inside ordinary sentences. Reading it felt disturbingly familiar. Marcus joined us 30 minutes later carrying his tablet and legal pad. By then, Melissa had already agreed to testify if needed. Strong witness. Prior documented pattern. Matching behavioral evidence involving minors. The case structure started tightening into something dangerous for Claire and Brandon both. Marcus reviewed the material silently for several minutes before finally speaking. "Ethan," he said carefully, "if Claire knowingly exposed Noah to a man with this history after recognizing intimidation signs, family court will tear her apart." I nodded once. "Come outside. Ice underneath." Then Melissa reached back into her binder and pulled out one final sheet of paper. "There is something else," she said quietly. 3 weeks ago, Brandon contacted my former stepdaughter again." Marcus looked up immediately. "How?" Melissa slid the printed screenshot toward us. My eyes locked onto the contact number at the top of the page first. Same area code. Same last 4 digits. The message came from Claire's phone. The message Melissa showed us carried only 8 words. "Keep your mouth shut unless you want problems again." Simple sentence. Calm tone. Same intimidation pattern. Brandon always hid threats inside ordinary language because plausible deniability mattered to men like him. What changed everything was the source number. Claire's phone connected directly to the message metadata through carrier verification records Melissa's attorney had preserved during the old restraining order case. Claire either sent it herself or handed Brandon access willingly. Neither option survived well inside family court. Marcus understood that instantly. His entire posture sharpened at the table. "We move fast now," he said quietly after Melissa left. Claire already crossed into witness intimidation territory involving minors and prior victims. I drove home that evening with a strange calm settling over me. Rage burns hot at first. Then evidence takes over and the mind starts organizing damage into structure. I stopped seeing Claire as my wife sometime during that week. She became a legal opponent sharing my address. Around 7:15, I walked into the house carrying takeout containers from Noah's favorite barbecue place. Small routines mattered more than ever now. Stability protects children during emotional collapse. Noah sat at the kitchen island working through multiplication flashcards while Claire poured wine into a stemless glass beside the sink. She looked up and smiled carefully. Measured. Studying me. "You are home late," she said. "Project bids ran long," I answered. Half true. The safest lies usually contain pieces of reality. Claire stepped closer and rested her hand lightly against my arm. "We should plan a weekend together soon." she said softly. You mean, Noah? Things feel disconnected lately. That word almost made me laugh internally. Disconnected. Like emotional terrorism against a child counted as temporary marital distance. I looked past her toward Noah. He froze the second Claire touched me. Tiny reaction. Huge meaning. Kids read danger faster than adults because survival depends on it. Claire noticed his expression too. Her fingers pulled away from my arm immediately. Fear again. She sensed the emotional center of the house moving further from her every day. Later that night, after Noah went upstairs, I began phase 2 quietly. Asset protection. Marcus recommended aggressive documentation before confrontation. I opened separate accounts under the commercial HVAC Consulting LLC I had maintained for side contracts during the last 6 years. Completely legal. Fully documented. Then I redirected incoming consulting payments away from our joint checking structure. Claire already siphoned money through hidden transfers. I simply secured what remained exposed. By midnight, I finished scanning tax returns, retirement records, mortgage statements, and Noah's educational savings accounts into encrypted legal folders. Every responsible father eventually learns the same lesson. Hope feels emotional. Preparation feels loving. Around 12:40 a.m., Claire padded into my office doorway wearing silk pajamas and that same lavender lotion again. Strategy wrapped inside nostalgia. You have been working nonstop lately, she murmured. I kept typing while financial records uploaded to Marcus's secure server. Big quarter. Her eyes drifted toward the folders on my desk. I watched panic flicker across her face before she covered it with concern. Everything okay financially? She asked too casually. There it was. The real question underneath all her behavior. Money. Exposure. Control. She worried about collapse now because Brandon probably started sensing pressure too. People carrying secrets always recognize movement before exposure arrives. Fine, I answered calmly. Claire studied me another long second before nodding slowly and walking away. Then she made the mistake that shifted power fully onto my side. She forgot her smartwatch charging beside the bathroom sink. At 1:13 a.m., a message lit across the screen from Brandon. He knows something. We may need to move faster with the custody plan. The phrase custody plan stayed in my head the entire next morning while I packed Noah's lunch for school. Claire moved around the kitchen pretending everything still fit together. Coffee mug, email checks, casual questions about weekend errands. Performance mode. Meanwhile, her smartwatch message sat archived inside Marcus's evidence folder beside financial transfers, intimidation recordings, and Melissa's testimony draft. Claire still thought secrecy protected her. She had no idea the walls already collapsed around her quietly. Around noon, Marcus filed emergency documentation with family court requesting temporary custody review based on emotional coercion involving a minor. Timing mattered. Judges react strongly when evidence arrives before confrontation because it signals protection instead of revenge. By Friday afternoon, the legal machinery had already started turning beneath Claire's feet while she smiled through suburban routines upstairs. I spent that evening setting the final stage carefully. Noah's 10th birthday dinner landed 2 days away. Claire booked a private room weeks earlier at an upscale steakhouse near Addison. Because appearances mattered deeply to her. Family photos. Celebration posts. Perfect mother optics. I decided to let her keep the reservation. Public exposure works best when people walk into it confidently. Saturday morning, Brandon texted Claire 15 times before noon. I knew because her synced tablet still mirrored deleted notifications through cloud backup recovery. Panic sharpened his messages now. Did Ethan say anything? Watch the kid. We should lock down accounts before things explode. Then came the sentence that erased any remaining hesitation inside me. If Noah becomes a problem, we blame emotional instability from your marriage. I stared at that message for a long time. Men like Brandon always assume children make easy targets because kids struggle to defend themselves publicly. He forgot one important thing. Courts understand patterns better than predators do. By Sunday evening, everything stood ready. Marcus waited 1 floor below the steakhouse inside a private conference room with printed filings and emergency custody paperwork. Melissa agreed to remain available by phone for immediate testimony verification. I carried copies of every bank transfer, every recording, every threatening message inside a slim black portfolio resting beside my chair. Calm preparation creates terrifying momentum. Noah sat beside me wearing the blue button-down shirt my mother bought him last Christmas. He looked nervous, but lighter somehow. Kids sense when adults finally take control. Claire arrived 20 minutes later, glowing with confidence. Perfect makeup, gold earrings, smile polish sharp enough for social media. Brandon followed 5 minutes behind, carrying a gift bag and fake familiarity like he already belonged beside my family. The second Noah saw him, his shoulders tightened visibly. Marcus later said that reaction alone would have mattered strongly before any custody evaluator. Trauma reveals itself physically before words catch up. Dinner started normally enough. Small talk. Steaks ordered. Claire touching my arm, more than usual for performance value. Brandon playing charming corporate friend. Then Noah accidentally dropped his fork when Brandon leaned too close during conversation. Metal hit the plate sharply. Noah flinched hard enough to knock over his water glass afterward. Silence spread across the table instantly. Brandon forced a smile. "Easy there, buddy," he said softly. Wrong move. Noah's breathing changed immediately. Fear response. Visible. Documented by 3 witnesses sitting at nearby tables close enough to notice. I reached into my jacket calmly and placed my phone face up beside the breadbasket. Then I pressed play on the 43-second recording Noah captured weeks earlier. Claire's voice filled the private dining room first. Relaxed. Laughing softly. Then came the sentence that drained every ounce of color from her face. "Scare him a little if you have to. Fear keeps children quiet." The room froze so completely I could hear Noah breathing beside me. Claire stared at the phone like the recording had reached across the table and stripped her skin off in public. Brandon recovered first. Men like him always try confidence before accountability. He leaned back slowly and forced out a dry laugh. "You are seriously spying on private conversations now." Wrong response again. Marcus stepped into the private dining room at that exact moment, carrying a slim leather folder beneath his arm. Timing matters during legal exposure. Calm structure crushes panic every time. Claire's face lost the rest of its color when she saw him. "What is this?" she whispered. Marcus placed the folder carefully beside my plate. "Emergency custody filings," he answered evenly, along with evidence packages documenting emotional intimidation involving a minor child. Brandon's jaw tightened instantly. Claire looked toward Noah next, but he pulled his chair closer to me without saying a word. That movement carried more truth than any courtroom speech ever could. Marcus opened the folder and spread out printed screenshots across the table one by one. Bank transfers, hotel receipts, threatening messages, Melissa's statement, Brandon's prior restraining order history. Then came the final document. The carrier verification report connecting Claire's phone number to the intimidation message sent toward Melissa's former stepdaughter. Claire's entire posture collapsed after that. People imagine explosions during moments like these. Real destruction usually arrives quietly. A person simply realizes the story they built can no longer survive contact with facts. Brandon pushed back from the table first. "This proves nothing," he snapped. Marcus barely looked at him. "Actually, it proves pattern behavior involving minors across multiple households." Then he slid Noah's audio transcript directly in front of Brandon. Family court tends to react strongly when adults weaponize fear against children. Brandon reached toward the paperwork instinctively, but Marcus placed his hand calmly over the stack first. "Careful," he said softly. "Those copies already entered legal record 37 minutes ago." That sentence changed the power dynamic completely. Brandon stopped performing confidence after that. Claire finally broke. Tears filled her eyes as she looked toward Noah. "Sweetheart, I never wanted you scared," she whispered shakily. Noah stared down at his untouched birthday dessert for several seconds before answering. "Then why did you keep choosing him?" Children ask cleaner questions than adults because they cut around excuses automatically. Claire opened her mouth again, but no words came out this time. Around us, the restaurant staff pretended to focus elsewhere while tension spread through the private room like smoke. I looked at Claire carefully then. 15 years together. Mortgage payments. Hospital visits. Christmas mornings. All of it collapsed down into one simple truth sitting between us. She protected excitement while her son carried fear alone upstairs at night. That reality outweighed every affair detail combined. "You should leave," I said calmly to Brandon. He looked ready to argue until Marcus slid another paper toward him. Temporary no-contact recommendation regarding Noah pending judicial review. Brandon read the first paragraph and stood immediately. Smart choice for once. Claire watched him walk out of the room without stopping him. That part mattered too. When pressure arrived, fantasy abandoned her faster than family ever would have. 2 months later, the court granted temporary primary custody in my favor while formal evaluations continued. Noah started therapy twice a week. The nail-biting faded first. Then the nightmares slowed down. One Saturday morning, I found him drawing superheroes at the kitchen counter again instead of hiding folded papers under his bed. Small victories save people quietly. Claire received supervised visitation until parenting evaluations finished. Marcus said the intimidation evidence changed the entire trajectory of the case. Melissa sent me one message afterward that stayed with me longer than any legal victory ever could. Predators survive through silence until somebody finally chooses structure over fear. Looking back now, I understand something most people learn too late. Affairs destroy marriages every day. Ego destroys trust. Lies destroy homes. But the moment an adult teaches a child to live in fear inside their own house, the story stops becoming about betrayal. It becomes about protection. And some fathers break quietly. Others build evidence.